A thought appears. You didn't plan it. You didn't invite it. Yet there it is, fully formed, demanding attention and carrying your voice. Try to catch the next one before it arrives. You can't. By the time you wait for it, it's already there. Thinking is like watching raindrops hit glass, appearing from nowhere, merging with others, and falling away. You just watch it happen, unable to say where it began or where it will end. Every mind on earth performs this illusion perfectly. We claim authorship of what we merely witness. The idea to speak, the memory that flashes, the sudden wave of self-doubt, all appear on their own, and only then do we stamp them with a name, mine. The brain lights up before the decision, neurons whisper before the word, and still we narrate. I chose this. It's a beautiful trick, one that built civilization and drives our private suffering. Because if you aren't thinking your thoughts, who or what is living your life? If the stream of mind runs without your command, where exactly is the thinker hiding? Science sees it in milliseconds of readiness, philosophy in the illusion of doership, and the mystics have whispered it for centuries. Awareness precedes the mind, but until you glimpse it directly, the question hums beneath every thought you've ever had, an untraceable echo asking, who's thinking you? This isn't an argument against free will. It's an exploration of how the story of you arises from the machinery of thought itself. This channel isn't here to give you answers or dogmas. It's an open experiment in seeing what happens when attention turns inward, past the surface of thinking, into the silent field it springs from. If you love wandering through the hidden architecture of mind and reality, you'll feel at home here. Stay with us and watch this video until the end, because once you see how thought truly arises, something in you will stop chasing it, and what will be left is not emptiness, but the quiet realization that life has been thinking itself through you all along. Watch your mind for a single minute and you'll notice something strange. Thoughts appear whether you want them to or not. They rise like bubbles from dark water, carrying fragments of memory, argument, fantasy, and fear. You can no more stop them than you can stop the heart from beating. What we call thinking is mostly the brain's spontaneous hum, a ceaseless improvisation beneath awareness. Long before you decide to think of something, the machinery has already moved. Electrical whispers in the motor cortex begin hundreds of milliseconds before the moment you believe you chose to act or speak. Scientists saw it first when they measured the brain's readiness potential, that faint flicker before intention appears in consciousness. The mind doesn't wait for permission. It starts, and only afterward does awareness catch the echo and say, I meant to do that. You felt this countless times. The song that surfaces out of nowhere. The memory you didn't want but couldn't prevent. The sudden plan that feels like revelation. Each is born in silence and arrives without your consent. Yet immediately, the narrator inside claims it. I thought of this. I remembered that. It's as if a reporter is taking credit for stories that were already written before they arrived. This automatic generation isn't a flaw. It's how the brain keeps you alive. Beneath awareness, networks are constantly predicting, sorting, replaying possibilities. The same spontaneous background that creates worry also produces insight, creativity, and empathy. The stream never stops, only the commentary changes. Sometimes you manage to focus deliberately, but even deliberate focus is built on layers of automatic processing running ahead of you. Like steering a ship while the ocean moves beneath, your sense of control is partial, delayed, and often imaginary. You tell yourself you steer the waves, but the waves have their own rhythm. What's remarkable is not that thoughts arise by themselves. It's that you keep taking credit for them. This reflex of ownership is ancient and automatic too. The I appears each time a thought lands, like a signature added after the painting is finished. If thinking happens on its own, then what exactly is this me that claims the process? Is it the author, or just another thought appearing in the same stream? Because if the current flows without your command, perhaps the one who says, I think, is also being thought. Somewhere in that stream of automatic thought, a character emerges. It calls itself me. It doesn't control the thoughts, but it takes ownership of them. Like a narrator appearing halfway through a movie, it begins to claim authorship of scenes already unfolding. This is the birth of the thinker, Not a real entity, but a story written by the mind to explain itself. The brain craves coherence. It can't bear randomness. So when thoughts and actions arise from countless unconscious processes, the mind strings them together into a timeline, adding a main character to hold it all together. In neuroscience, this function is often called the interpreter, a left hemisphere mechanism that builds a story of order out of chaos. When a spontaneous impulse becomes movement, the interpreter steps in after the fact and declares, "I did that." Even when it had nothing to do with the decision, the story is so convincing that you never suspect it was fiction. This illusion of agency runs deeper than belief. It's woven into perception itself. Each thought arrives unannounced, but within milliseconds, the brain tags it as yours. That tag gives rise to the sense of a central thinker, the one who imagines, decides, and judges. But this one is simply the mind's attempt to make sense of itself. It's correlation mistaken for causation. Awareness notices a thought and assumes it caused it, the same way thunder follows lightning and we imagine intention behind it. Across centuries, mystics and philosophers have pointed to this trick of the mind. The ego, they said, is a mask the universe wears to keep playing the game. The doer is a mirage on the surface of consciousness, a useful illusion for survival, but an illusion nonetheless. You can feel it every time guilt or pride arises. The sense of ownership that says this is my fault or my achievement. Both depend on the same invisible assumption that there is someone inside orchestrating it all. But what if that someone is just another echo in the chamber? The thought, I think, is itself a thought. It doesn't stand apart from the others. It's born from the same invisible tide. The thinker isn't behind the thoughts. The thinker is made of them. And when you start to see that clearly, the whole structure trembles. Because if the I is only another story, who's the one reading it? There's a pause hidden inside every moment, so subtle it's usually missed. It's the stillness right before a thought is born. Most people never notice it because the mind rushes in with a noise the instant it appears. But if you sit quietly and listen, you can sense it. The silence from which the next word, image, or memory will emerge. It isn't emptiness. It's the background of everything. When a thought arises, it seems to arrive from nowhere, like a spark in a vast field. That field is awareness itself. Thoughts appear in it, move through it, and dissolve back into it, but the field never moves. It doesn't choose which thought will come next, and yet every thought depends on it to be seen. This is where science begins to meet meditation. In moments of deep presence, brain activity that drives self-reference and mental chatter quiets down. Networks that once rehearsed stories of the past and future fall silent, while patterns of coherence emerge across distant regions, as if the mind itself begins to listen. Experienced meditators sometimes show this synchronized calm, a brain awake but resting in spacious attention. But you don't need a laboratory to witness it. You can sense it now. Notice the next thought that enters your awareness. Did you make it? Or did it simply appear? Watch how quickly the mind tries to claim it, how the sense of I rises to say, I thought that, but the awareness that noticed the thought existed before that claim, and it remains after the thought fades. That awareness doesn't think, it perceives. It's the sky to which every cloud belongs, unchanged by what passes through. The more clearly you notice this, the less urgent thinking becomes. Thoughts keep arising, but they lose their authority. They're seen as movements of mind, not messages about who you are. And in that recognition, a strange peace begins to grow. The peace of realizing that awareness doesn't need to control anything to remain whole. Because beneath every thought, before every word, and after every silence, something vast is quietly watching. And it has been watching all along. Every effort to control the mind begins with the same assumption, that there is a controller. You feel a rush of unwanted thoughts, anxiety, or memory, and immediately the impulse arises, I have to stop this. But notice what happens when you try. One thought attempts to fix another. The controller is just another appearance in the stream, pretending to steer the current that carries it. For most of your life, the mind has run on this loop. It's exhausting because the system keeps correcting itself while believing someone is at the wheel, but the wheel is spinning on its own. When you stop trying to grasp it, you start to see the whole mechanism clearly. In the lab, when people are asked to suppress thoughts, the brain responds with a rebound of even stronger activity. The forbidden idea comes back louder. The harder the push, the deeper the imprint. Psychologists call it ironic process. The mind can't help but think of what it's told not to. In spiritual language, this is the same paradox the sages warned about, that freedom begins when striving ends. The moment you let the thoughts be, something remarkable happens. They lose their gravity. They still arise, but without the pull to chase or resist them. It's not indifference, it's recognition. You begin to sense that the mind doesn't need management. It self-regulates like the body breathing or the heart beating. What once felt like chaos reveals an underlying order. This is what surrender truly means. Not giving up, but giving over. The river never needed a swimmer to reach the sea. It flows because it's in its nature to flow. And awareness, untouched by effort, watches the movement without interference. In that watching, peace isn't achieved. It's uncovered. You may find yourself laughing at the simplicity of it, that the battle to control thoughts was always thoughts fighting themselves. When that realization lands, a quiet relief spreads through the body. The world hasn't changed, but something inside has unclenched, because the mind's freedom comes from seeing that control was never required. If thoughts arise on their own, then what intelligence moves them? What breath animates the invisible wind of the mind? Every idea, emotion, and decision emerges from a source that no one has ever truly found. You can trace the biology, map the neurons, model the data, but at the center there's only mystery. Perhaps what we call mind isn't contained inside a skull at all. Maybe it's more like a field, alive, unbounded, resonating through everything. The same currents that form galaxies are shaping the sentences in your head. The impulse to speak, to love, to wonder may not belong to you, but to life itself, expressing through the form called you. Modern science, still peering through its microscopes, hints at this. Patterns of synchronized brain activity resemble musical harmonies. Each neuron a note, the mind an unfolding composition that seems to play itself. Some philosophers suggest consciousness might be fundamental, not an accident of matter, but the stage upon which matter appears. Others speak of panpsychism, the idea that awareness saturates reality in degrees, that everything, from star to cell, participates in a single experiencing whole. Mystics have said it more simply: the universe is dreaming through you. Every thought, every flash of inspiration, every question of why is life exploring its own reflection. Even the doubt that arises right now, that skeptical voice saying, "This can't be true," is part of the same dance. If you look closely, you'll notice that mystery has never been outside you. It's in the awareness reading these words, in the pulse beneath your skin, in the silence between each thought. And maybe it doesn't need solving. Maybe its beauty lies in being lived, not understood. Because when you stop asking who's thinking, what remains, it's wonder. A quiet sense that existence itself is intelligent, and you are one of its thoughts made visible. When the mind grows quiet, reality reveals a texture you've always missed. The air feels softer, the colors seem to breathe. You realize that existence was never waiting for your permission to be beautiful. It always was. Thought only filtered what was already whole. This silence isn't emptiness. It's the fullness that remains when striving stops. Every sound, every breath, every heartbeat unfolds effortlessly. And in that effortless unfolding, you begin to sense something extraordinary. Life was never asking you to control it. It was asking you to notice it. The you, who was chasing understanding, starts to dissolve into the experience itself. Awareness looks at the world and finally sees no boundary between observer and observed. There's just the play of consciousness recognizing itself. Through you, through everyone, through everything. Maybe that's what freedom really is. Not the end of thought, but the end of resistance. A quiet trust in the intelligence that moves all things. If something opened in you during this journey, if a small light of recognition flickered, share it below. Describe what it felt like when you realized that thoughts arise on their own. Your words might be the mirror someone else needs to see themselves. And if you want to keep exploring these hidden layers of mind and reality, subscribe and walk this path with us. Each video is another window into the mystery we're all part of. Because the more clearly we see that life is thinking itself through us, the more beautiful it becomes to simply be alive.